We all believe we are on the same treadmill. Same starting line, same speed, same rules. The scoreboard ahead counts the distance we have covered. Run harder, it goes up. Slack off, it drops. Simple enough. Then something strange happens. One person sprints until their lungs burn and stays in place. Another barely walks and moves forward. Legs heavy, breath short, chest tight. Why does it feel this hard? Only for us. The answer is simple. The belt speed is different. Set the moment we were born, by someone else. And when the era shifts, someone resets it again. What we misread is not effort or willpower. The real problem? The data we see is biased. Let us look at the evidence. 1943, the middle of the Second World War. The U.S. Army had a critical problem. Too many bombers were being shot down. Armor had to be added, but covering the entire plane made it too heavy. Where to reinforce? They studied the bullet holes on returning bombers, the fuselage and wings, riddled with damage. The engines? Clean. The conclusion seemed obvious. Reinforce where the bullets hit, the fuselage and wings. Abraham Wald, a statistician at Columbia, overturned the conclusion. He asked one question: where were the planes that never came back hit? The bombers hit in the fuselage survived. Those holes meant the damage was survivable. The bombers hit in the engine crashed. That is why they were not in the data. Wald's mathematical model showed that engine hits downed over half the planes. Fuselage, wings, tail, hit and still flying. The armor belonged not where the holes were, but where they were not. Visible data was hiding the truth. The military accepted Wald's recommendation. Engines and cockpits were reinforced. That decision saved thousands of lives. This is survivorship bias. Look only at what survived, and the truth disappears. We are making the exact same error right now, with the sentence, "Hard work pays off." We only hear from those who made it. Millions who worked just as hard and failed remain invisible, like the planes that never came back. Why does the phrase, "hard work pays off," destroy us? The answer is not in emotion, it is in structure. Three structures hold this sentence together. First, survivorship bias. Second, attribution error. Third, structural inequality. First, survivorship bias. Every success story we consume belongs to a survivor. The founder who made it gives interviews, writes books, gives talks. The one who had the same idea, the same passion, the same hours, and failed, says nothing. No stage, no data. Economist Raj Chetty's team at Harvard tracked tens of millions of U.S. tax records. The odds of a child born into the bottom 20% reaching the top 20%, 7.5%, less than 1 in 10. Salt Lake City, 10.8%. Charlotte, 4.4%. Memphis, 2.6%. Same country, different city of birth. A fourfold gap in odds. Yet we only hear from the 7.5% who made it. The other 92.5% are the planes that never came back. Second, attribution error. When the brain sees someone succeed, it searches for the cause inside the person. Effort, talent, willpower. When it sees someone fail, same instinct. Laziness, complacency, lack of discipline. Social psychology calls this the tendency to attribute behavior to character rather than circumstance. A friend gets promoted? They're ambitious and smart. We get passed over? I wasn't good enough. Erase the situation, keep the personality. A meta-analysis of 173 studies confirmed this pattern. This error turns back on us. In 2023, a major longitudinal study revealed a single fact. Among low-income youth, those who strongly believed hard work always leads to success formed a distinct group. After they became adults, they were more likely to end up in unstable employment, less likely to reach full employment. Why? When they hit structural barriers, they searched for the cause not in the system, but in themselves. I was not enough. Chest tightens. Breath goes shallow. Run harder. Still in place. Not knowing the belt beneath keeps accelerating. Research shows that when low-income individuals face social rejection, they blame themselves at significantly higher rates than high-income individuals. The poor are stripped of even the luxury of blaming the structure. A 2026 experimental study, published in the British Journal of Psychology, captured this process precisely. Participants exposed to rags to riches narratives perceived the current social system as more legitimate, and they were more inclined to blame themselves for failure. My fault. I should work harder. This response held even in contexts where social mobility was objectively low. The structure was blocked. People still blamed themselves. The success myth had operated as a cognitive weapon. Third, structural inequality. The OECD published a report titled A Broken Social Elevator. It tracked one key metric: how many generations it takes for a child born into the bottom 10% to reach average income. Denmark, 2 generations. The United States and the United Kingdom, 5. Colombia, 11. A child with the same effort and the same talent, born in Denmark, reaches the middle class by the grandparents' generation. Born in America, the timeline stretches back to the great-great-great-grandparents. Born in Colombia, the math stops making sense. The belt speed is different. Only the birthplace changed. Do Danes work harder than Americans? The opposite. OECD data. Germany, 1,340 hours per year. The United States, 1,811. Mexico, 2,128. Mexican workers put in roughly 800 more hours per year than German workers. At 8 hours a day, that is 100 extra days, over 3 additional months of labor. Yet, in the World Happiness Report, life satisfaction is led by Finland and Denmark, the countries that work the least. Mexico, the longest working hours, ranks far behind in income. Working more does not guarantee a better life. The volume of effort does not determine the outcome. Structure does. That is why the success myth is dangerous. The most famous case. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, started in a garage. Millions hear that sentence and think, all I need is a garage. Look at the actual facts. Bezos graduated from Princeton. He was senior vice president at D.E. Shaw, one of the most sophisticated hedge funds on Wall Street. He encountered the 2,300% annual internet growth rate inside the firm. The idea did not start in a garage. It started in a Wall Street data center. In 1995, his parents invested roughly $250,000 in their son's venture. Adjusted for today, nearly $500,000. Bezos told them himself, "There is a 70% chance you lose everything." The family could absorb that loss without collapsing. The first engineer was top-tier talent from Apple. Shel Kapin, who built Amazon's first website, came from Apple. Bezos called him the most important person in the history of Amazon. The desk made from a garage door was not a symbol of frugality. It was strategic staging. This is not to say he did not work hard, but the core was never the garage. When we remember only the garage, the degree, the network, the capital, the safety net get erased. Princeton, Wall Street, $250,000 from family, a net that catches you if you fall. That was the real starting line. A safety net that survives failure becomes the engine of bolder risk. If we remember only the garage in Amazon's story, we are looking at bullet holes on returning planes. A small experiment. Two identical people. Same IQ, same willpower, same amount of effort. Only one thing differs. One has parents in the top 10% of income, the other, bottom 10%. 20 years later, how different are their lives? Picture the two of them in your mind. The answer comes not as a number, but as a feeling. Chetty's data provides the answer. Children from the top 1% of income are 10 times more likely to become inventors than those from the bottom 50%. 8.3 per thousand versus 0.84. Even a child scoring in the top 10% on third-grade math, if low income, has a dramatically lower chance of becoming an inventor than a high-income child with the same score. Same ability, different outcome. The research team called them lost Einsteins. The environment swallowed the talent. Girls only saw their odds of becoming inventors rise when they grew up in areas with more female inventors. Not talent. Exposure determined the future. Then, what exactly is hard work pays off? It is not motivation. It is a political sentence. One that transfers the blame for failure from the system to the individual. A 2024 Pew Research Center survey. Only 53% of Americans said the American dream is still achievable. 41% said it was once possible, not anymore. Break it down by generation. The crack is sharp. Under 50, only 42% believe it is possible. Over 65, 68%, a 26-point gap. High income, 64% say yes. Low income, 39%, a 25-point gap. The successful believe the system is fair. They have to, otherwise their success loses its legitimacy. What this gap reveals is not a difference in optimism between generations. It is that the generation raised in economic boom and the generation entering low growth stand on different treadmills. A child born in 1940, 90% earn more than their parents. Born in 1980, 50%. It collapsed to the odds of a coin toss. The belt speed changed, but the rules did not. They still say, run harder. So what do we do? Survivorship bias, attribution error, structural inequality. 3 causes operating at once. 3 solutions. First, redirect the effort. Not work harder, work smarter. Chetty's team ran a large-scale randomized experiment in Seattle. When giving housing vouchers to low-income families, they compared 2 groups. One received only money. The other was assigned a relocation counselor. 53% of families with a counselor moved to higher opportunity areas. The regular group, 15%. A 38-point difference. Cost per family, roughly $2,670. Projected lifetime income gain for the children, approximately $210,000. Not the volume of effort, the environment of effort changed the outcome. Second, recognize our own belt speed. It means changing what we compare ourselves to. A 2022 study published in Nature backs this up. Analyzing 72 million social network connections, they found that regions where low-income individuals had higher rates of social ties with high-income individuals showed higher rates of upward mobility. This single variable predicted mobility more powerfully than school quality or poverty rate. When connectedness rose from 25 to 50%, a child's future income rank climbed an average of 8 percentiles. Recognizing the structure, Knowing which belt we stand on is itself a strategic choice. Third, demand a change in belt speed. Instead of telling individuals to run harder, redesign the treadmill. Why Denmark's bottom 10% reach average income in just 2 generations? Not because Danes run harder. Wage compression policies reduced the income gap and raised the floor. A structure was built where even the less educated do not fall into poverty. Universal education, starting from early childhood, narrowed the cognitive gap caused by household environment. Raise the floor, and the run gets easier. Instead of loading all responsibility onto individual effort, demand structural change. That is the most strategic effort of all. A study surveying 150,000 people across 40 countries found this: the stronger the belief in meritocracy, the smaller people perceive inequality to be, compared to its actual size. Put on the lens of meritocracy, and inequality disappears from view. Removing the lens we wear without knowing, that is the most important act for seeing structure as it truly is. Let us change the question. Not, did I work hard enough, but what speed is my treadmill belt set to? Not, why did I fail, but what structure am I running on? Not, how much faster should I run, but why was my belt speed decided at birth? We are not denying effort. We are questioning the mindset that makes effort the only variable. The answer does not live in our will or our labor. The answer lives in the design of the treadmill. Wald asked, "Where were the planes that never came back hit?" Now it is our turn to ask. The people invisible on the grand stage, where did they stop?